Hey everybody, I'm Hugh Brownstone for 3 Blind Men and an Elephant, and today I want to share with you a relatively quick update after going hands-on, briefly, with a pre-production sample of Nikon's Z7 using their new 35-1.8 and 24-70 f4 S-line lenses and their AFS Nikkor 105 1.4 EED using the new FTZ adapter. Yeah. And yes, I've decided I'm going to pronounce Nikon and Nikkor the way I have for 50 years. Apologies for whom that is an issue. My continuously evolving verdict at this moment is that in spite of a number of missteps, Nikon, depending upon what it does in the coming days and weeks, just may have a massive, massive hit on its hands. Let's get into it. 1. I am pleasantly surprised. I actually liked the Z7 and the S-line lenses in a Dr. Seussian green eggs and ham kind of way, and actually, we could use a little silliness, a little wisdom, a little more poetry right about now, because it has been a wild ride in Z-Mania land these last couple of weeks. Now, I've never been a Nikon shooter, actually. I've never spent... Is that right? Yeah, I think so. Even 5 minutes with anyone who works for Nikon. Maybe because I was a Canon shooter for the better part of 40 years. Maybe because now our daily shooters are a Panasonic GH5 and a Sony a6300. But holding aside for a moment what I'll call slot gate, firmware gate, lens build quality gate, and what the f*** were you thinking marketing gate, I am now inspired to share this with you. I do like the Nikon Z. I do like it. I can see. I might like it for YouTube. I might like it as a noob. I might like it in a car if I travel very far. I might use it for my work. I might selfie if I twerk. I know. Keep my day job. Look, as little time as I spent with camera and glass, it was long enough that I could, at this point, go on and on about the ergonomics, viewing experience, build quality, etc. But I'm going to leave the details of that for a full production review when that becomes possible. Instead, I'll say simply that these small but numerous operational, ergonomic, and build quality differences between the Z and the current third-generation Sonys in what is roughly the same size and form factor convince me. Things like a real dedicated ISO button, a dioptric adjustment control easily accessible and manipulable even with my eye to the finder, outstanding focus peaking, dead simple, always available manual focus override, a video record button, if not coincident or co-located with a shutter release, is right next to it, making my 50 plus years of acquired muscle memory usable. And other than the 2 buttons between the lens and grip, which I had no problem reaching, nary a custom function button in sight. Yeah, the Z feels like a camera. No reinvention, but credible. No oh wows, some Borat level, very nice. But no are you kidding me's either, at least not from where I sit. Hold that thought. Well, okay, I'll say this about the whole card thing. Fascinating timing on the announcement of Sony's tough SD cards. And fascinating to contemplate, yet again, what is a pro? I encourage you to read Daniel J. Boorstin's essay, The Amateur Spirit. Not uninteresting that a faulty card locked up one of the cameras I had with me, but it took less than 60 seconds to reinsert card and battery and get it sorted, which is not ideal for weddings and sports, I grant you that. Anyway, I think given the things the camera enables with its EVF and video functionality, and with its very Nikon-esque manual of arms, Nikon shooters will love the Z, while Fuji shooters especially will scratch their heads wondering why they'd put up with it. I understand both perspectives. I will say that image quality, at least what I could see through the EVF and rear panel, because that's as far as we were allowed to take it, looked drop-dead gorgeous. Hold that thought. Bottom line, all else being equal, I could see shooting with the Z and the S-line glass, even though, as I just said, our daily shooters are the Panasonic GH5 and Sony a6300. We have outstanding glass for them, and I just don't need any more or would want any more. And they are very light, very good cameras. 2. With this said, I am moderately concerned for Nikon. I'll call them teething problems that Nikon has to fix before the Zs are certified ready for production and ship were real and significant in the pre-production camera with which I shot. I have no way of hazarding a guess as to how long it will take to sort them, and that is the source of my concern, coupled with the pressure Nikon must be feeling to get these into the marketplace ASAP. September 5th, anyone? The AF worked brilliantly, native Z or with the FTZ adapter, until it didn't, suddenly going funkadelic even for studio shots, face-tracking rectangles, yes, that was plural, skidding all over the screen, and basically not working at all when I turned away from the 2 studio lighting setups and trained the camera toward people in the larger interior retail space with ordinary retail lighting. The IBIS allowed blur at shutter speeds way too high, 1/60th of a second on the 105 wide open. Both models, Marissa and Allison, were total pros and knew how to hold a pose. And my hands are reasonably steady. There's simply no way the IBIS was yielding a 5-stop advantage. I know what that's like with the GH5, the G9, and I actually have an XH1 in right now. Finally, EVF blackout times were atrocious. But these issues actually don't bother me. That is the nature of new product development. What I am concerned about is that they were present so close to ship date. I'm concerned that Nikon allowed us to see them without managing our expectations. And again, I have no sense of how close or far away Nikon is to sorting them. This has all had a feeling of being rushed and not nearly as well organized as it should. Neither ever a good thing. If Nikon hadn't had continuing supply problems with the D850 from the start, hadn't just apologized prophylactically for not being able to fill everyone's pre-order, if this weren't their first camera in a fundamentally new generation of cameras, I'd be less concerned. On the other hand, 3, I am cautiously optimistic. If Nikon can fix these teething problems completely, in a relevant time frame, while achieving even rough parity with the A7R3. And let me add, if they have the operational chops to scale and provide exemplary customer service, I mean, make it a pleasure to buy and use Nikon gear, which is non-obvious given not only the aforementioned concerns, but the low frequent drumbeat I'm hearing from Nikon shooters about service. Especially given how difficult it must be to be Nikon these days, with what I imagine is exceptionally limited freedom of movement following its recent financial performance and what had to be gut-wrenching restructuring it undertook in fiscal 2017. Well, my sense is that Nikonistas will move to the Z cameras in droves, single card slot or not, XQD or not, subpar battery life or not. And with these provisos, why not? Canonistas left the fold altogether for Sony's first A7S, single card slot and Pez-sized battery notwithstanding. I exited Canon after 40 plus years, selling off my 5D2 and a pile of L-glass, and switched to the little Sony a6000 with great satisfaction and better outcomes. Yes, our expectations evolve, but I'd say it was much more difficult to do that than would be the case for a Nikon shooter living with a new Z, delivering an, as promised, dramatically better hybrid experience than even a D5 for many, if not all, use cases. No need to sell off a ton of glass. No need to take a loss as you buy new. No need to learn a new manual of arms. Even if, just months, weeks, or days after their shiny new Z arrives at rough parity with the current generation of Sonys, new versions are announced, maybe start shipping, maybe it's the new Canon and one-ups yours. And that came out very wrong. I'll think about whether I want to do this again. Let me put it another way. The Sony a7 III was a brilliant breakthrough camera at breakthrough pricing when it was introduced just months ago. It's still brilliant now. The A7R III was brilliant when it was introduced just months before that. It's not even a year old. It is still brilliant now. It just seems to me that when Nikon actually delivers parity, how many times am I using this phrase already? With the A7 III via its Z6 or A7R III via its Z7, it probably won't matter at all to many Nikon shooters if Sony's A7 IV comes out before a Z6 II, or an A7R IV comes out before a Z7 II, or an A7S III comes out before what, Z8, Z9, zippity-doo-dah day? When it comes to the glass, the new S-line, and back to whether or not they're pro. Look. The S-line is Nikon's G-Master analog, their most ambitious effort ever, applying the latest materials science, latest software-aided design, latest AF motor tech, latest design philosophies and trade-offs, like weight or traditional notions of build quality. No, the S-line lenses are not remotely built like old school Leica M-mount glass, nor Fuji glass actually for that matter, nor, when I think about it, my Canon FL and FD lenses of decades ago, all of which are or were lovely each in their own way. But in an age of fly-by-wire lenses, no other AF lenses are built like that either, with rare exceptions like the brilliant, unbelievable, my favorite, 28 1.7 Summilux built into the Leica Q. Again, it's amazing. Or the clutch configured, though it's not in the same league mechanically either, brilliant optically as it is, Fuji's 16mm f1.4. The thing is, change is happening, perhaps the desire for change, one can argue, too rapidly. State of the art in our industry is becoming state of the was in less than 12 months. The rate at which we consume, the rate at which we eBay away our troubles rather than just get stuff fixed, or better yet, just be satisfied with what we have, has become epic. Locust-like. And no, I am far from immune to these inclinations, but I know I'm better than I was. If the S-line weather sealing is as good as Nikon says, if image quality, resolution, contrast, field curvature, aberration, focus breathing, you know the drill, is as good as my eyes suggested they are, especially if it's done in the glass and not in software, because software correction typically doesn't work out quite as well in video. As good as these MTF charts imply they are, and yeah, right, okay, there are a number of things MTF charts don't measure. You can't necessarily compare one manufacturer's MTF charts with another's, blah, 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 blah. And you actually think through the trade-offs of weight, speed, and shallow depth of field on the one hand versus easy, extended, handheld shooting on the other. The actual difference, an extra stop of light matters in an era of usable sensitivity at least up to 12,800 or more anyway. What the actual difference in depth of field is between a 1.4 and a 1.8. How often you really want a 2.8 instead of 4.0 zoom, rather than whipping out, say, a truly bokadacious 85, or even better from where I sit, 135 1.8. If build quality is suitable, appropriate to the purpose and projected lifespan for which it is intended, and legacy glass, autofocus, and IQ performance with the FTZ adapter is what Nikon promises, or as good at what I saw in the short time I had with it, until it wasn't, then, on the other hand, the 24-70 f4 especially may be a sleeper hit, and it's more than possible that Nikon's launch strategy for the camera and the glass is very, very well considered at a moment, I'll say it again. When Nikon is operating with very finite resources, which is not quite the same thing as saying its marketing is very, very well considered. You know you have to hold that thought too. 4. I'm okay with pricing. When it comes to the bodies, Nikon is taking a page straight out of Sony's playbook. Release the expensive model first, limit the availability, create a halo, build up some cash, iron out some kinks, all the while preparing to be that much sharper when the lower priced, higher volume models ship. Nikon wants $3,400 for the 7, fine. Sony wanted $4,500 for the A9 when it first came out, $3,200 for the A7R3 when it first came out. Yes, I understand the Z7 doesn't do 20 frames per second, blah, blah, blah. This misses the larger points I'm trying to make. I don't think Nikon has the cash to leave money on the table, let alone lose money on every sale right now. The whole point of cameras like these is to justify raising prices and increasing margins on smaller unit volumes, which I don't begrudge them. And even if the A7R3 is now priced $400 below the Z7, that's probably much less than you'll lose in a complete system swap, including lenses and flash. When it comes to lenses, I think Nikon is being moderately aggressive. Yeah, it's charging a bit under $600 for the 51.8 S-line. Yes, that's true. But Sony charges $900 for their 55.1.8 and $1,500 for their planar 51.4. Never mind the $4,000 Seuss charges for the Otis. Sony charges $1,600 for one of my favorite lenses. They're brilliant but big Distagon 35-1.4, while Nikon is charging $800 for their lighter 35-1.8 S-line. Now, sure, you can pay as little as $200 for Sony's FE 51.8, but I can tell you from personal experience, it is not remotely in the same league in terms of AF performance or build quality as the 51.8 S-line. IQ is pretty good, though. I'm saying, I think Nikon's balancing act with these lenses is far more interesting than many people recognize, or I first imagined. I'm saying the price for the bodies and the glass is a reasonable starting point given its target audience of existing Nikon shooters. We'll see what the market tells us soon enough. 5. After playing with the gear, I am even more stunned by Nikon's marketing and launch event. So stunned that I sat on this video for a couple of days thinking about whether or not I wanted to do it at all, because I don't want to pour gasoline onto a fire. I don't want to add noise to what is already a low signal-to-noise ratio. I don't want to be anything other than constructive. I do want to get closer to a better understanding, as always, of what it is precisely that I'm actually seeing, and I want to share that with you. Finally, as I've said before, I do want Nikon to succeed. It's good for all of us. But with full recognition that I'm just one more person with an opinion. With humility, I offer the following thoughts because I want Nikon to succeed. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. If anyone at Nikon sees this and actually wants to hear what I think, I'm happy to speak with you. For now, I'll just say, when and if Nikon succeeds with the Z system, Nikon, please, don't make what I believe to be a critical mistake in thinking it's because of your marketing. In the end, if Nikon can deliver in a timely fashion on the promises it has made, if it achieves a core competency in mirrorless camera design and execution in an age of rapid, continuous improvement, very different from what it is used to, if it is able to fundamentally alter its mindset and can establish a new level of authenticity, relevance, and resonance in its messaging, I now believe that they will have not only, as I said at the beginning, a massive hit on their hands, but a sustainable one too. Special shouts out to Adorama and Nikon for putting on the event and inviting me. Thanks to all-around good guy Paul Ip. Paul, thank you. Nice to see you again. For making the experience a little more friendly and fun. Thank you to Marissa and Allison for bearing up so well under such intense lighting and being so good at what you do. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, Jacob. Shouts out to our Patreon patrons. You know who you are. For sharing your thoughts and wise counsel. I listened and synthesized it. And finally, a shout out to you, our dear YouTube audience, for being so generous with your time, comments, and support. For Three Blind Men and an Elephant, I'm Hugh Brownstone. See you next time. If you like what you've seen here today, please give a thumbs up, subscribe, join the conversation below. You guys continue to be just incredible, knowledgeable, inspiring, funny. I mean, you're a joy, truly. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Grab one or both of our new Hold That Thought t-shirts you wanted us to put up at our new 3BMEPthreadless.com store. Support our work by using our affiliate links down below in the show notes, dropping us coffee money via our PayPal link down below in the show notes, or even better than that, we invite you to become a patron of our work over at Patreon. Link down below. We've created our Patreon page because we are stoked to bring you not only gear reviews, but with our What Were You Thinking and Good World Gone Bad series, historical, educational, artistic morsels, and longer form conversations, not interviews, with world-class photographers, curators, gallery owners, keepers of the legacy, folks like Elliot Irwitt, Anya Sear, Mark Lubell, Etheline Staley, and friends like Brian Smith, Paul Giroux, Nino Rakicevic, and more. We'd really like you to join us to deliver this kind of content regularly. Your support on Patreon will really help us ramp it up. In which case, as always, we thank you for it. That's it. For Three Blind Men and an Elephant, I'm Hugh Brownstone. See you next time.